Hi there, TikTokers. The video that I'm going to present to you and dissect is one I thoroughly have enjoyed, not because of any malicious intent toward any sister, but because it is restoring, it is rejuvenating to see a lovely sister be honest and give credible advice to the lovely ladies in our community, to be an instrument of correction, of accountability, of education, and true mentorship to the ladies. And to that lovely sister, she has my deepest and most heartfelt support, admiration, and desire for many blessings to just flow upon her, for her and her family, and congratulations to her undoubtedly lucky husband. So without further ado, and I apologize because as perfect as her video is, I do see the need to join her, to support her, and to corroborate many of the lessons that she's putting forth in this video. So without further ado, come with us, sister.
I have not seen so many miserable women in my life.
Admittedly, we've already crossed the tipping point to where it's only going to go further downhill from here, because we are in real time seeing the effects of the toxic feminist movement go up in flames. It's already been failing for a number of years, but we're at that point now where the numbers of disgruntled, unhappy, unfulfilled women are going to skyrocket, at least for the next 10 to 15 plus years. So buckle up, ladies.
Beautiful women who appear to have everything going perfectly on the surface, but they get online and they tell you how wrecked their life is, how miserable they are.
Notice where this lovely sister begins. She is not talking about black women in the collective sense at this point. She is specifically isolating the segment of women who should have the least amount of problems, struggles, opposition, or general hardship with respect to being able to find husbands. She starts off with the pretty women, the beautiful, the ones who should have the greatest amount of opportunity, the greatest amount of leverage with respect to being able to get a man. That's important, especially once we really get deep into it and start looking at the women who would be considered average or below average, or in other words, the general population.
I think they're miserable because they have been lied to. They've been told that if they pursue a college degree, if they pursue a career, if they pursue personal fulfillment, if they pursue travel, if they pursue being the very best on their job, that they will be fulfilled and happy. And that's not true. That's not true.
And this lovely sister is 100% correct. It was always a lie. It was always a lie that was primarily perpetrated by the government, by multinational corporations and conglomerates, and on the more public level, the community of scissors sorority sisters, you know, the rainbow ladies, the carpet munching ladies. Yeah, that was something that was promoted by them. It was a means of expressing their disdain for men in general. It was their means of trying to separate otherwise heterosexual women from heterosexual men. And it was always an additional source of ego stroking to prey upon these women's temporary, if not incessant, need or feelings to be validated and to feel special.
I believe they need to fulfill the one purpose that I think God put in the hearts of women. And that is to find that man who is to be your covering.
Bullseye again, my dear sister. You hit the nail right on the head. And we know this to be true because if you listen to these ladies who have done all the things that she mentioned, they've gotten their educations, they've gotten the great jobs, they're living their best lives, they're exploring their sexual freedom. After all the wonderful things that they claim that they're doing, up to and including supposedly outpacing the black men, why is it that they consistently complain about not having anything to show for it? You would think, least of all, amongst the things that they long for in their lives as they went on these campaigns to promote their non-reliance upon men, you would think that they would never complain about what they're not getting from men, that they would have no reason to complain about a lack of provision, a lack of protection, a lack of access to men's resources when supposedly they have resources of their own. Though these women are living, breathing contradictions of everything that they claim to be, everything that they've claimed to achieve, everything they even hope to be, which is why they bring so much bitterness and toxicity and malice to the men in the community. This, again, the same men that they said that they were independent of, non-reliant upon, that they just didn't need.
Now, feminism has told us that marriage is slavery for women.
Which is one of the worst lies that has ever come from the toxic feminist movement. And you would think that if these women were half as intelligent as they claim to be, they would understand that it would be the opposite that is true. That marriage actually frees women. That it takes so many of the burdens of the relationship off of their shoulders and puts it on the men, especially in one of these historically patriarchal type relationships where the man already goes into it with the understanding that it is his gender normative expectation to provide for and to protect the woman. He's the one expected, above and beyond anybody else in that relationship, to be the one to lay his life down for the safety and sanctity of the other person. He's the one who's expected to get up in the night and see what just made that noise. He's the one who's expected to defend the family from any and all potential threats, be they realized or not. He's the one who's expected to get out there and get it. So when it comes to these women who even have the concept of having the quote-unquote soft life, he's the one expected to be the one to provide that for her and to her. He's the one who's actually enslaved.
That motherhood is slavery for women.
Ironically, it's the opposite that turns out to be true. It's not married motherhood that is enslaving to these women, but single motherhood that is enslaving to these women. See, many of these power-hungry women who may find themselves in marriages, they will say this bullshit that they feel enslaved to motherhood, but they say so at their own detriment because they have a consistent pattern of ignoring all the contributions that their husbands make to the relationship. How, because the husbands do what they do, because the husbands work the way that they work, they are in a position to complicate their lives with all of the extracurriculars that come along with dealing with their children. And keep in mind, these women still have a great amount of choice with respect to their bodies, even within a marriage. The laws of our land protect that. No, it comes to the single mothers who have this self-defeating habit of producing children, procreating children with men who are not their husbands, men who in many cases show various types of inabilities to be indeed good husbands and or fathers. That's where these women have to pick up the slack. That's where they have to find alternative support. That's where they have to find, in many cases, alternative sources of income because they're not getting that income from their baby daddies as they would from their husbands.
That men just want to dominate us and put us under their thumb and keep us underfoot.
And that's where it becomes apparent that women truly do not know men and truly do not listen to men. We do not have that kind of time. We don't give enough of a shit to preoccupy with ourselves with trying to dominate who you are and what you have going on. We have enough of our own stuff to deal with. We have our own issues. We have our own likes, desires, hobbies, pastimes. Those are the things that are meaningful to us. Not trying to micromanage your every waking move. I mean, if anything, as much as you ladies hate the concept of being submissive, there's no question that you know what the word means. And there's no question that you've heard it enough to where you regurgitate your dislike of it enough to understand that we have said it. And by the fact that you can acknowledge that we have said it, you can also acknowledge that the reason behind us saying it is because we don't want to dominate you. We want you already submissive. We want you to already be accepting of the life plan, the strategy, the leadership that we propose to you, that we bring to you. We're not trying to sit up here and have some type of consistent struggle for power on a daily basis with us. That's the whole point of telling you that we want submissive, feminine women, so that you're already on the same page before anything even starts. We're not trying to waste our time, resources, money, and God knows whatever else mixed up in your chaos or your incessant need to try to wrest power from us. That's why so many of you are in a position of rejection that you're in right now.
And keep us in the kitchen pregnant.
If anything, perhaps that's what needs to happen. Maybe we need to keep you in the kitchen and pregnant. Because the one thing's for damn sure, if you're already pregnant, then more than likely, all things considered, hopefully, the source of your pregnancy would be your husband. Hopefully not somebody else. So that would mean you would already have somebody in-house at your beck and call for sexual access. You don't necessarily have to search for another man's eggplant because you have your husbands to rely upon, who apparently not only loves you and is there for you, but is there for your resulting children. But also, if you're at home in the kitchen, then you are definitely not out in the world facing all of the crazies and the sickos out there. You know, all those people that you love to tell us are worse than the bear. Yeah, you're not encountering those individuals because you're at home and you're pregnant and you're being tended after. Yeah, you're kept safe and you're provided for.
Women who are single tell themselves that because they're single.
And we see this time and time again. And it's actually sickening at this point, where single women will tell themselves this as a contingency, as some type of self-consolation, because they don't want to deal with the reality of their failure. They want to save face to themselves. And we also see where women will perpetuate this lie to save face amongst each other, so that other women wouldn't think lesser of them, so that other women wouldn't feel sorry for them, so that other women wouldn't see themselves as superior to these women, these failed miss me women.
And women who have walked away from their marriage tell themselves that because that makes them feel better.
Because sadly, Many married women who are still trying to cling on to their youth, who are still trying to impress themselves, deluding themselves into thinking that they are significantly more sought after or more valuable women than who and what they really are, they make the mistake of falling into this hypergamous ideology and behavioral set. And they tell themselves that they can do better than the men who actually pledge themselves to be their husbands, only to find themselves going right back into the dating market with a considerable deficit. See, all those years they spent with their husbands, they don't get those back. They don't get back their fertility. They don't get back their younger attractiveness. No, they don't get that. They start off exactly where they are in this period of time, their general level of attractiveness at this point in time, and whether or not they have any additional responsibilities, i.e. children, at this point in time. They also deal with whatever other physiological changes that they've gone through, such as weight gain, so on and so forth, or deteriorating health. All of this plays a deciding factor in their success in their would-be new relationships. So to make themselves feel better, they will go back and assimilate and begin to chant the same toxic rhetoric that their single sisterhood sisters also say, only to find themselves intensely wrong and miserable.
I'm here to tell you the truth. You miserable because you supposed to be under the covering of a man. That is part of life. That is part of being fulfilled. That is part of your purpose on this planet, to be under the covering of a man.
And make no mistake about it, most women know this and they understand this. They pretend not to. There is a reason why women go through these bridezilla moments if they have successfully been the recipient of an engagement. Because they know that that wedding day is a celebration that this woman has succeeded, whereas other women have potentially considerably failed and may never succeed. It's why there's so much fanfare and pomp given to the would-be bride, why her dress is purposely designed to be pretty, whereas the bridesmaids' dresses are purposely designed to be less appealing. It is why the bride-to-be is treated so regally. She's treated completely special. We even say that the wedding day is the bride's day, even though it's supposed to be celebratory of the union between this couple. It's a big deal. It's a big deal between women. It is an acknowledgement of innate superiority because one way or another, this woman has been chosen over whatever other women that this particular man has had sexual access to.
Of course, you can just disregard everything I'm saying and call me a pick-me and go on with your life. How's that working for you so far?
And we can tell from the innumerable responses that lovely sisters like that give when they try to educate the ladies, we see that you're desperately miserable. That nothing that you do works. That when all else fails, that's when you make yourselves self-proclaimed cougars. And then you do the one thing that you criticize the men the most for. You begin to engage in this predatory way of dating. You know, the same way that you talk about these men when they get younger women. Yeah, what is it exactly that you do when you try to offer yourselves to young, virile, would-be husbands, would-be fathers, and the only thing that you bring to these young men is pre-sexed on vaginas that no longer have the capacity to bear these young men children. You will rob these young men of their intended future to be fathers by offering them your hypersexual, relatively barren selves, knowing full well that you can never give those young men the life experience that they are seeking. You cannot bear them children, and at some point, either you're pre-menopausal or you're full-on menopausal, and at some point you will no longer be able to even offer them your sexuality anymore because it becomes more problematic to you as life progresses for you. Meanwhile, you know that they're coming into their sexual prime. You're looking for babysitters. You're looking for male nurses to take care of you into your elderly years. Because when it comes to performing your wifely duties to these young men, yeah, we know that's pretty much coming to a close. If not coming to a full-on inability. And this is why you all are so miserable. Almost everything about you becomes a contradiction. Because the truth of the matter is, when you were significantly younger, instead of you having a mindset to conjoin yourself with a man that you love, honor, and respect, and to be his companion, to integrate yourself into his life, well, you took a more selfish approach. You took a more reckless approach, and you squandered the best years of your lives. You squandered your fertility with men that you never should have even slept with, much less bore children for in this age where, let's be very frank about it, you will abort a child at whim. But for whatever reason, you decided you want to keep that guy's baby or those men's baby because somehow you lied to yourselves and told yourselves that if you did so, that would lock you in for the rest of those men's lives. And you were sadly mistaken. Good luck and Godspeed.